core services, which is going to be a very interesting talk. So enjoy it. Timo, thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. My slides are very boring background, it's just black, sorry. Didn't have time to add aesthetics. But anyway, I'm Timo and I'm Chris who spoke earlier's brother. We don't look alike at all. Anyways, yeah, we run the BSidesCapeTown chapter, and it's quite nice to see a diverse crowd, a lot of ladies here. So you guys are also welcome to come to our meetups because we don't want it to be a sausage fest. So you're more than welcome. Okay. I don't work in.
Give the second line. I'm going to stop you at that point, right? Yes, please.
I was working on this quite late last night, sorry. I usually have quite okay spelling, and I don't work in marketing as you just said. I work at a company called Incloud, some of my colleagues here, and I usually do a bit of penetration testing and also software development. I chose to talk about this topic because it's quite annoying in security that a lot of people are only focused like on the offensive, but not also on the defensive. Because I feel if you want to be truly good, you have to know both sides of the coin. And it's like IT is quite broad, and to know both sides of the coin is quite difficult. So, disclaimer, I spelled correctly. Yeah, all my opinions are my opinions, and it's not that of my employer. I also did all of this in my own time, and I'm here in my personal capacity. And feel free to stop me at any point if I say anything stupid or you don't agree with me. We can, like, I want this to be a bit of a discussion, not just a presentation. You're not like a captive audience. And yeah, if I express any opinions that offends anyone, I'm sorry, but it's my opinion, so don't sue my company or BSides or, yeah. Okay, and I did the research in my own time. So, random quote I found the other day, I couldn't actually figure out who said it, but it was said, technology is neutral. It depends on how it's used, if it's used like foolishly or wisely. And like, I mean, if you look at startups, for example, often the intent is just immediate gain, but you know, the short-term goals causes us to think foolishly and not think about the bigger picture of the long-term harm of what we might do. And you know, this applies to all kinds of technology. Yep. What?
Opposite of thin.
Okay, but I was working on this very late, sorry. But thank you. And Andrew is quite good at writing documents and proofreading things, as you just pointed out. Things I like, because I want you guys to get to know me a bit. I'm quite interested in Unix system administration. Some people think it's a boring topic. I think it's quite awesome. Programming is interesting as well. Hacking web apps is interesting as well. And I find malware quite interesting. I haven't ever gone so far to make malware. I wish I could. I read a lot about the topic. And as you know, like malware is becoming more on the network side as well, and also integrating with web applications, because you know botnets use web applications to control them. That statement could have been interpreted wrong. Anyway, and I'm a big OpenBSD fan. Some people think I like Linux. I don't really like Linux that much. And then I'm very interested in I2P and Tor. Do any of you guys use I2P? Anyone use it once at least? Heard about it? Okay. Well, we're going to have a new cybercrime bill introduced into South Africa soon, which makes it illegal to torrent. And if you want to torrent and ISOs of Ubuntu and open source stuff that's not copyrighted, you can do it over I2P. Yeah. Anyways. Things I don't like, because that's also part of getting to know me. I don't like our national security is used for an excuse for almost anything in South Africa in politics. I don't know if you guys know, but everyone who's an employee in Parliament recently had to be vetted again by the SSA, and that include polygraph test, which is not scientific. And I don't like Jacob Zuma. I also don't like corruption, and I also don't like rapists. I forgot to add that there, or oppressive government. Anyway, who this presentation is not for. It's not for pedophiles. We plan on making the new freedom hosting, and it's not for jihadists either. You guys know who the jester is? Okay, cool. This presentation is not how to be an internet drug lord. It's also not how to buy an AK-47 for online for terrorists. Recently I read that one of the people from the NSA said, yeah, but the guys in France use Tor to buy AK-47. It's actually quite easier to buy it in real life than it is on Tor, if you ask me. And okay, in South Africa, and you know, like people use the car to drive to where they did the terrorist attacks. Does it make cars evil? You know. Anyways. So yeah, like if you want to run a Tor hidden service, if you look at DPR from Silk Road, he really didn't know what he was doing when he was starting out. He hardly knew anything about coding, never mind system administration. He just went and did it, which is a good way to go about starting out something, to just go and do it. But if you're going to do something that is in the interest of the intelligence agencies around the world and law enforcement to bust you, you better know what you're doing. You need to, I forgot, maybe the slide came in the wrong place. Anyway, but my aim also for this presentation, why I'm doing this, is I want this to be a guide for people who are consider themselves as freedom fighters. I'm sure some jihadists also consider themselves that, but this is not for them. Just on how to run a Tor hidden service, like I've got it in a later slide, but apparently in Kazakhstan from the 1st of January, they're going to man in the middle all SSL traffic. And if you can think of the consequences of that, it's going to be quite difficult to access sites that enforce certificate pinning. Besides that, like, that's just totally unfair towards the people of Kazakhstan. And I mentioned it later on, but quite a lot of big sites like Facebook, DuckDuckGo, Pirate Bay, etc. run Tor hidden services. And if Tor isn't blocked in those countries, or if they have access to IPs of bridges, they will be able to access Facebook and all these services without their traffic being intercepted. But just as they will be able to access those services, anything else, maybe news would be helpful if somebody hosted it over a Tor hidden service as well. And you know, something that's weird with this DPR case is that he was one of the first people to be arrested for kind of a blue team side of, in terms of a hacking charge, where he was arrested for running infrastructure. And the only people that you see getting arrested for running infrastructure in the past is people running spam servers. And usually people don't run themselves, they just infect other servers and use them to send out spam. But this is going to be, in the future, the legislation isn't there yet, but in the future you might see that running infrastructure can also now become a cybercrime. And we never thought that that would ever happen. And yeah, what do people think of Tor? A lot of people think of Tor as part of what's known as the bad guy starter kit, PGP, Tor, and I can't remember what the other one was, but and OTR. But that's simply not true. If you know, like intelligence agencies like to say, yeah, but cryptography is bad. We don't have keys to decrypt this stuff, you know. But what if we said the same? You know, the NSA and the CIA obviously have their ways of communicating securely over phones, over cell phones, etc. And what if we said the same about that technology? Just because we don't work for them doesn't mean that these technologies are evil. So what I think of Tor, Tor has quite suspicious origins. Do you guys know who started the Tor project? Yeah, it's correct. So that's quite weird because, you know, if you look in America, they have like, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a cyber, like war games or whatever, and it's usually between the US Navy, the NSA, Red Team, and such kind of people. And, you know, why the heck would they want to start something like this that it could be used for bad? But anyways, what is the motive behind it? I don't know. But they do a lot of research on it, a lot of good research, and yeah, it's good for browsing the internet if you're in countries that have, where social media is blocked, and but Tor is not. But usually Tor is blocked, but not completely, in countries such as Iran, China, etc. And yeah, freedom of speech, like, yeah, you can't, it's a quote I got from this URL on ITP, one guy said, you cannot provide freedom of speech only for some speech. It's pointless to even try. Every network innate censorship can and will be rooted around it. And besides this, truly support free speech and communication means also supporting free communication that you strongly agree with. And unfortunately, Tor and ITP is used quite a lot lately for malicious software to communicate because it's such a good technology for encrypted communication. So anyway, so darknets is and also the dark web is a weird term that people throw around. It was intended to be used to mean like basically the internet that cannot be indexed. But as I don't know if you guys know, but most of the dark web or whatever is indexed these days. You get all kinds of search engines, and you actually, yeah, that you can search onion websites for content. So the slide shifted up a bit. Yeah, so this slide, this presentation is for freedom fighters. There was a photo of Gandhi here, sorry. And this is a way of like non-offensive, like fighting back against oppressive governments, but it's not for this kind of freedom fighters. Anyways, so like I said, why would you want to run a Tor in service? Not necessarily for something bad or malicious, like maybe you just want to give people a way to access news that's not censored, or just any information. You know, the internet was built with the idea of having something that couldn't be shut down in time of nuclear wars. And you know, at the moment we need something that cannot be censored, and Tor is a good way to do that. And South Africa might just have internet censorship soon. We already have a very subtle media censorship, and even if most sites are blocked, if Tor isn't blocked, you will still be able to access Facebook, DuckDuckGo, etc. And yeah, why do you want to run a Tor hidden service? Maybe you want to run a website without somebody knowing that you're running it and where you're running it from. And maybe you want to serve a website that is accessible to people in a country where there's sense. And I've said this over and over again, but you know, you can be anywhere in the world, and they will be able to access it. And you also don't need a public IP to do that. You can do it from behind a NAT. Okay, so yeah, this presentation is about blue team stuff. So it's also a challenge to run a Tor hidden service. If any of you guys have tried, there's lots of denial of service attacks on sites like these, and you don't have to use it necessarily to run a website. So Tor hidden service is by not so bad, guys. Here's a list of them. If you look here at the Facebook one, it actually uses HTTPS, which is not common on Tor, because people assume that because communication is already encrypted, they don't have to encrypt it over SSL as well. But I can't vouch for the authenticity of these websites, because Wikipedia at the moment doesn't even want to list, like if you type in Silk Road, the .onion URL that it used, or if you type in Facebook for the .onion URL that it uses, because there's no way to definitely say this URL belongs to this website unless they're also listed on the publicly available website. And obviously, for example, whatever darknet marketplace is popular at the moment does not have a publicly available website. So it's very hard to say this website belongs to this URL, if that makes sense. Do you guys get what I mean by that? Okay. Yeah, that's true. So you won't get an error if you access that, yeah, that's quite a good point. But there's another reason why they do that. I'll get to that in a bit. If I was somebody working for intelligence agencies or whatever, I would run fake Tor hidden services that impersonate other hidden services, and to trick users into giving me information that they're not supposed to. Yeah, this is in Tor browser, and as you can see, it doesn't end with .com, it ends with .onion. And I've got NoScript on. I actually recommend you to turn NoScript off, because Facebook uses so much JavaScript, but if you're very paranoid, you won't do that. This is just in Firefox. I opened up some of the content that's usually loaded from a CDN, and it's also loaded from a .onion website. Well, the same .onion domain, but it seems like they, well, I didn't notice that. Seems like they've got a different domain for their CDN, so that might be worrying. I didn't notice that earlier. Anyways. So this is a quote where they interviewed one of the engineers at Facebook, and he said they decided to use SSL because the Tor daemon as a reverse proxy into a load balancer at Facebook requires the protection of SSL, because anybody who sits between that load balancer and the box that they have the private keys on could intercept the unencrypted traffic in that moment and do something with it. And so they don't just care about helping people circumnavigate the filtering in countries or whatever, or blocking sites, but also interception, which is good, unless you go and request it from them directly, and they'll give you the information. As a result, they provide the SSL certificate with their onion address. Okay, so it doesn't give the SSL warning. Okay, so that's a point we made. So there's two reasons. Okay, so yeah, like I said, it's hard to verify the authenticity. So what do you need if you want to run the next big Tor hidden service? You need a black belt in system administration. a very good grasp on secure coding practices. If you're not going to be coding your web applications yourself, you need to have somebody else code it, but you have to know enough to know that they are using best practices, and that just have people audit the source code as well. You have to use your own hardware, but preferably not from your own home, because if you are suspected of running a hidden service, they'll just search your home. But a point somebody made is, as soon as you run it on your own hardware, there's a lot of rights that you have related to running it on your own hardware. Just know that the intelligence agencies, especially in America, have the ability to intercept packages, and especially hardware, and place all kinds of hardware devices to monitor either the network traffic or whatever else on that. So preferably buy second-hand hardware and buy it cash somewhere and don't have it shipped to you. You have to have a good working knowledge of modern techniques used by intelligence agencies and law enforcement worldwide. You need a black belt in secure coding if you are going to code the web applications yourself. You need a good lawyer or a few, and to have a lawyer that knows about cyber-related issues is quite difficult to get hold of. And you need friends in real life. I'll get to this later, or I can just discuss it now. But the big problem that this guy from Silk Road had is he didn't really have any friends. And apparently he had a girlfriend, but he had no friends actually in real life. And he found like shelter by making friends online with the people on his forum, and many of them were either informants or working for law enforcement directly. And I mean, what a feeling of betrayal if you made friends with these people and they screwed you over so hard. So if you have friends in real life, hopefully you also have a real job, because you need reason to, for example, to have all these servers at your home, to have IT knowledge, and you need a cover story for what you do in the day. If you're going to run a tourism service that generates a lot of revenue, and if you have friends in life, you also real life, you also have people who can explain where you are at certain times. Obviously not like illegally, but I mean, I don't mean that they should lie in court or whatever, but I just mean if you don't have any friends, you're going to be in the same place probably the whole day, and maybe somebody wants to frame you and murder somebody and puts it on you. Who are you going to tell? Say, yeah, used to vouch for you. Yeah, so you have to do all of those stuff if you don't want to see this if you're on your website. I was friends with a guy I was talking to online, and I used to give him instructions on how to set up this one application on PHP, and then one day this popped up on his site. And I got such a fright. I was still working in Stellenbosch, and then he was like, "No, it's just a joke. I just wanted to see how you were going to react." Yeah, he just ran a message board, but I got quite a fright. Anyways, yeah, you need a real job. Like running a secure hidden service is like running some other clandestine operations related to narcotics. We have to have a story for your high electricity usage, yeah, or manufacturing methamphetamine, for example. And you need to have a cover story for your high bandwidth usage, and don't forget that people can actually see that you have traffic going to the Tor network. They can't see what you're going to, but in most cases they can see that there is traffic going to the Tor network. So you have to have some sort of, like some people suggest, running several maybe bridges, not bridges, relays. You might want to run exit nodes, but there's quite a lot of legal implications and just a lot of drama around running exit nodes. But you can't just have lots of Tor traffic going from your servers and no way to explain it. And what's that? yeah, so that's one way that some people use. They have like servers in other countries, and you set up a VPN between your servers and maybe make it go out there. There's all kinds of techniques that you can use. You could maybe even proxy, use a VPN, what's it called, CJ, DNS, but the network is very small, so it's going to be limited to, I don't know, 32,000 people where it could be going to. You need automated deployment, but not necessarily in the DevOps way with the DevOps tools like Puppet and Chef, because sometimes I'm very wary of the security of some of the tools. People just download like a Puppet manifest and run it, but don't read over it. You also need an automated way of self-destructing the hardware and the hard drives, you need a physical security fortress. You want to be able to know if somebody came. I don't know if you guys know Jacob Applebaum. He's one of the, as far as I know, one of the Tor developers. Like a few times in the apartment and just like mess things around. You want to know if somebody's messed around in your place, and then you don't want to touch those computers again. So what you also need is no prior involvement in the scene. And when I say the scene, I mean the Bitcoin scene, the Tor scene, and any drug-related forums. If you look at the Silk Road guy, he was on Shumery or something. I think he was using his real name and real email address, which was very stupid. And he used that to actually post something about Silk Road the first time. Yeah, you want no way that people can say you were involved in these kind of things before. You want to have a cover story for why you're spending so much time in front of your computer, so it will help if you do work in IT. You want to have multiple internet service providers. I'm not like completely clued up with networking on the level of like BGP routing and all kinds of that kind of stuff. But if I had to figure out who is running a Tor agent service, and I had the authority and power, then I would just take several ISPs in this country and just cut them off one by one and see until the site is no longer available for a few seconds. That's the way I would do it. And you know, maybe if you're the NSA, you have that kind of power. So you want to have some kind of like multi-homing setup where if the internet connection is cut off from one ISP, or, that you're still connected to the internet somehow. And there's always kind of ways to do this with the Tor agent service as well. You want to have backup electricity as well, because maybe they decide to also, if in South Africa, the electricity would go off anyway. You want cooling. Lots of it. I don't know if you guys have ever read about Facebook. It's like, not Facebook, Google's policy around cooling. They don't actually cool their servers a lot. They make them heat up quite a bit, so you can make them go up to a certain temperature, but you also need to cool them down if you want them to remain functioning. You also want to weigh around floor cameras, because servers do generate a lot of heat, and floor cameras are generally used to find people who have high electricity bills. So if you have some basement, that will help. You want a house or building that you're renting. I put you under a fake name. That's actually a bad idea, because that's what that guy from Silk Road did. You maybe want somebody else to rent it for you on behalf of you. Or yeah, if you have friends in real life, you will have a lot of help there. Okay, so what's a floor camera? Okay, sorry. Forward-looking infrared camera, not a floor like I put it there. They use usually to find grow-ups in Canada and the USA. So what you also need, and that's why you need constant electricity, a multi-homing setup, whatever, is high availability, and not as in drugs, as in the stuff should stay online, like, because you know, number one, if you want people to keep making use of your service, it has to be online constantly, and you also want it to be able to go on even if you get arrested. And if you followed all of the previous precautions, you might be able to do that, because you want to convince authorities that if they've had you for a while now, that everything could never possibly still be running while you were in the what is the word, the custody, yeah, while you're in their custody, that there's no possibility that you could have maintained that uptime without having somebody help you or whatever. So think of that. Okay, this presentation, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I assume your tour agent service does not generate revenue. If you're a freedom fighter, hopefully it doesn't. But like people used to think that Bitcoins are like super anonymous and that they can't trace you. I think the authorities have caught up quite a bit, and there's all kind of ways to launder Bitcoins. But yeah, there's some new project out now that's supposed to do something about this. I can't remember what it is now, but there's supposed to be some new coin which is not just another altcoin, which is going to solve this problem. Okay, so what kind of service can you run in a Tor agent service? Anything on TCP. So I wasn't sure if XMPP actually uses TCP. I could be wrong, but I've seen IRC servers, news group servers, web servers, and obviously email servers on the internal Onion network. So like most people get the idea you can just run websites on it, but it's not true. And yeah, so anything that uses TCP, but Tor doesn't use IPv6, by the way. Okay, so just a basic set of instructions. I'll probably end up putting my slides online somewhere or on the BSides website, so then you guys can have a look at these links. But just the basic set of instructions on Debian, so everyone can follow. We'll just need to install Tor. Hopefully run apt-get update and apt-get upgrade before that. And then you make a directory. It can be anywhere, and then you chown it to that user. This is if you're not compiling Tor from source, and then you give it the I can't remember if that's the most secure permissions. Maybe somebody else could figure it out, but that worked. But that's not necessarily the most secure. Let's just go check it out again. Okay, so that's pretty much okay. I couldn't work it out in my head now. And then this is what you put in your .tor.rc file. So if you have a look here, the Tor client. Okay, in this example, I was running. I was just using, I think, Python simple HTTP just to serve a web server. So it was forwarding incoming requests to port 80 to localhost port 8000. So if you're running some service on localhost port 8000, then it's served on port 80 on the Onion address. It's as simple as that. And then you say service Tor restart, and then this is just one I took from the internet. I don't own that, but that's the hostname now. And if you go to that hostname, then you're going to go to whatever service you're running. So the weird thing with cryptography is it actually makes certain parts of data worth a lot of money. If you look at Bitcoins, made that true, but even the private keys of certain Onion websites are worth enormous amounts of money. So if this file is stolen by someone, they can impersonate your Tor agent service with the same hostname. I'm not sure in terms of which one will be seen more loudly on the network if two are running at the same time. I haven't read much about that, but often when illegal Tor agent service is seized, they make a copy and they serve it from another web server. They serve one of those pictures I showed you earlier. Vanity Onion addresses. So Vanity Onion addresses are addresses that have some prefix before it. If you looked at the Facebook one earlier, it actually had Facebook in front of it. that address is supposed to be very random, but there are ways to actually generate one with your name or whatever you want in front of it. And I'm going to tell you quick how to do that. There's this one GPU-based onion hash generator, but it makes use of, I think, some C# code that was written in Mono, and most people end up running it on Windows to generate the .onion address, but I wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, you can have a look at that GitHub project if I put the slides online, and I think it uses OpenGL, but I could be wrong. So basically what happens is you specify, in a config file, you specify an onion address that you want to generate. You run this program, and after a long time, you get the private key to be able to host it with whatever prefix you want. If you look over here, like Barbie Girl, blah, 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 onion, .onion. And then the project was based on this project, which is quite outdated and not maintained anymore. And so what the hell does vanity onion addresses have to do with security, you might wonder. Well, if you can create an onion address very similar to, like, let's say you could make one Facebook, but instead of a K, a L, and then whatever after that, or whatever, something close to it, then you might be able to convince people to go to that address if you just post it all over the internet and say, this is the .onion address for Facebook. And basically you could use it for phishing, or I don't know if that's a correct term in this context, but yeah. There's all kinds of ways to also use it badly. Server hardening. So most people end up going for the PHP MySQL route because that's the most popular, but those web applications tend to also be very vulnerable. But assuming you go for that stack, I'd suggest make use of PHP. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's supposed to be like a hardened PHP patch, and then get a copy of the Database Hackers Handbook. Have any of you guys read it? Get a copy of that book. It's the people that wrote the Web Application Hackers Handbook wrote it, and it's just basically, if you like SQL injection, you will like that book because it tells you different ways to kind of exfiltrate data for specific databases. And if you're going to use PostgreSQL, then read the whole section about PostgreSQL in that book because it also talks about locking it down. Again, like I said earlier, you want to know the offensive, you also have to know the defensive. So a new trend that we see with .onion websites is that they write web applications either in Golang or in C, because there are quite a lot of frameworks for Golang to do that. And to think more long term, to think of an application that you won't have to upgrade the dependencies every 2 weeks, and just something that can run for quite long and that you're quite sure will be secure. There's no silver bullet, you know. Okay, so server hardening, this is one site, I can't remember actually which one it is, that hands out shells for people, and you can log in over SSH to the .onion website. And long ago, I asked the guy for an account, I logged in, and I checked CBAN was enabled. And this site was supposed to have like say, all on networking is routed through Tor and whatever, but if you ran CBAN and you select the nearest mirror, it said it was in New Zealand, and I ran it a few times, and that server was definitely in New Zealand. So you really have to think about everything possible if you're going to be handing out the service, like what ways people can de-anonymize you. Your time zone is another way, and it's very hard to configure a server to really do networking over Tor and have no DNS leaks. Think about if the users will somehow be able to see your system time, because that can de-anonymize you. On the I2P world, the trend is that people set the time to UTC. Okay. Security testing. Do your own security testing of infrastructure, audit your source code regularly and your configs. Do configuration reviews. If you're running some revenue generating thing or not, run a bug bounty program. A lot of the darknet, marketplaces have had quite a lot of success with running a bug bounty program and have incentivized researchers telling you where there's issues in your applications in terms of security. Just an example quick of a security related tool that you can run over Tor. You can use SOCAT to forward the okay, I didn't put the other line in there, but anyway, you can use SOCAT to listen on TCP that address, and then for this Onion website, you will be able to access it over Tor, and then you can just run Nicto and give it localhost and forward 8080, and then it will run a scan on that. I'll fix it before I put it online. Zap can't do, I don't know if you guys know Zap. Zap can't do SOX proxies. It can do HTTP proxies, but you can, Burp Suite can make use of a SOX proxy, and you'll be able to use Burp Suite to attack web applications on the Onion network. And you can, if you like using Zap instead, you can just proxy all your traffic through Burp Suite, even the free version, and make, if you don't want to use Burp Suite. This is just a random weird Onion website that I came across. It's served on port 8080. Some of these guys have a good sense of humor. I don't think I put that list here. But this is quite a weird website that I came across. If you, I don't know if it's still like that, but at some point if you went on this website and you went on /log.txt, it showed all the user agents that connected to this website. And this is a Pirate Bay guy. Just a note on what it says here at the top: maximizing your Tor browser can allow websites to determine your monitor size, which can be used to track you. I don't know how realistic that is, or people are very paranoid. I forgot to put that in here, but you can look on, this is more for running Tor bridges and Tor exit nodes. There's a list of them on Tor project, I think .org, but I wouldn't recommend running it on Amazon AWS, and if you are going to run an exit node, you will, some people say you need balls of steel and a very good lawyer, but you also have to deal with the complaint notices all the time, because you have to take responsibility for all traffic going through your IP. There was a list, but I don't know. The list I put on here was not up to date, so I took it off. So I didn't go much into this, but if you guys remember the freedom hosting scenario, there was a shared hosting kind of scenario, but some of them had, it was shared hosting, but some of them had their own Onion addresses. This has its own challenges, but it's generally not a good idea to offer shared hosting, because people tend to use it for very bad purposes. So don't offer people shared hosting. Why did the slide go so late in this thing? Anyway, like the NSA guy said, the people bought AK-47s on some Onion website. Hammers are also occasionally used for bad things like smashing people's brains out. But should we stop building houses? This is a view I hold, but you might not agree. Don't use virtualization. This is a guy on Reddit /ronions that said that they made like a guide of how to run a secure Tor region service, and he said use a VPS. It's a very bad idea actually, and I'll explain it now. And this is some other guy's comments. He said, what concerns me is we're going to see people start running this stuff on VPSs in like DigitalOcean, Amazon, wherever. And something that a lot of people don't seem to get is that standard VPS is not secure at all, and ultimately you can't trust it. Your standard VPS typically uses OpenVC, but you can use KVM as well, whatever, where you run the instance of a Linux distro as a container. Use the host, KVM is a bit different, use the host kernel and share RAM. Your disk is just a folder on a standard file system, completely open and visible to the host. The system administrator who has root can look at what you're doing. And you can easily browse a file system, read files, write to files. read RAM and open up a shell as root. If you do disk encryption, whether it's InkFS or whatever, you ultimately need to decode the encrypted data to access it. You can't, if it's on, it can't be encrypted because then nobody can access it. And on an email system, you need to access to that data for long periods of time, so you'll typically need to hold it unlocked. Obviously, this is a problem if those can just pop up, open a shell as root at any time. They could just start being and browsing the mail directories. And also with virtualization providers, they often make backups of your VMs while it's running. So then it's not encrypted either, and then they've got a backup of it not being encrypted, and they can just log in and do whatever. So it's really not a good idea. Never mind attacks that break out of virtual machines. We're not even going to talk about that. So use your own hardware. So to wrap it up, if you actually own the hardware you run these things on, you're golden. You have tons of legal protections, and nobody can touch your stuff without you at least knowing about it. That I might disagree with. They can touch it without you noticing. Depends how clever you are. There are all kinds of ways around it. But it's just been generally a better idea than you making use of virtualization. Who here are fans of SE Linux? Okay. I don't think SE Linux is nice. If you ever actually compile the kernel with SE Linux in it, when the menu comes up, it's called NSA Linux. And not everybody who works there is bad, but from a design point of view, it's very bad. It's very hard to work with. Security should be practical. It's not a practical thing. This was a guy that I found online. It's also on the ClearNet of building a Tor hidden service from scratch, and the guy used SE Linux. But if you'll check here, this is one of the quotes by Spender from GR Security. He said, Superfund 2.6.3 Red Hat Linux 5 2.6.18 local kernel exploit, a vulnerability which, when viewed at source code, like when they did source code audits, is unexploitable, but thanks to GCC optimizations becomes exploitable. Also, bypass of mmap min address via SE Linux vulnerability, where having SE Linux enabled actually increases your risk against a large class of kernel vulnerabilities. This project called GR Security is by far the most underappreciated security-related project in the world, besides OpenBSD, in my opinion. And if you look at their website, for example, you can't download the patches at the moment because they run out of money. All these guys have day jobs, but nobody takes them seriously, especially not the Linux developers. And these guys really know what they're talking about. It just becomes more apparent as each new local kernel exploit comes out. So if one of you are a billionaire one day and you want to give money away, give it to this project, please. They actually had a lawsuit now where like embedded device providers were just making use of their patch and not giving them credit for it. And they ran out of money because of the legal costs. Yeah, if you plan on using Linux, use, I don't know how to pronounce it, GR Security. Okay, so as I said, if you ever want a technical challenge, try running a Tor hidden service with some very popular web application running on it. People really like doing denial of service attacks on them. The botnets that can do attacks on these Tor hidden services, the amount of bandwidth that they can send to one of these is far larger than the entire Tor network can even handle. So that's what I've heard, but I can't verify that as a fact. But like people have very large denial of service attacks on these Tor hidden services, and the protocol doesn't have load balancing built into it. So the current trick to load balance a Tor hidden service is to go through Varnish, which is a caching proxy. It's not like Squid. It's used more to speed up a website. If you write PHP code, you should look into it. It can make the app seem a lot faster, and then using Nginx with that, multiple web service behind it. Varnish only works on FreeBSD and Linux as far as I know, so if you wanted to go super secure and use OpenBSD, this is not going to work. You could also use, this is an old school way, HA proxy with Nginx or Apache 2 behind it. So some people will say, how about you use it, you add hops to your Tor client that you use for your Tor written service, but apparently it's not a good idea. So usually your client uses 3 hops, but Tor written service can usually uses 4, but apparently it's a bad idea, and on this link they tell you why. I didn't have time to read it. Anyways. Yeah, you guys are all obviously interested in security. Tor is a great project to look at if you want to do research on something. There's so much stuff you can do research about related to that. So something, if you want to run a Tor written service that you need to be aware of, is there's quite weird crawlers. There are 2 kinds that I find weird that you would have to be worried about. There are a few crawlers that have been known to be used by intelligence agencies to scope out new Tor written services and find information that might be of their interest. And the other kind is there are a few that run automated web application security testing. So you better have secure web applications, because some people will be looking at your web applications from a security point of view. And if any of you have the chance to try running a Tor written service, just set it up in a VM or whatever for a few seconds and have a look at the logs. Almost immediately you will have crawlers going over the web server, which is very strange, since Tor is supposed to kind of not be indexed. You also need to just think of the work out the probability of different things, and I'll try to explain better what I mean by that later on. You don't want people to narrow things down to you, so there's a picture. In this thread, this guy posted a thing, rate my Tor written service. So, like, I don't have it here, but basically, let's think what we can see about this guy. So this guy posted Internet modem, Sonic Wall, TZ215, Open BSD firewall appliance, which is he probably actually meant pfSense, and then Open BSD server with Tor written service. I don't know, that might be a very secure setup, but it's not a very anonymizing or very private setup, because, and also what he went and did here. This guy's, I read over some of his posts. He is somebody who is interested in cryptography and computer security, but only as a hobby. He's probably male, he's probably quite young. We have a username for him. There are only a certain amount of people actually in the world that use Tor. There are only a certain amount of people in the world that makes use of OpenBSD. There's only a certain amount of people who bought in a certain time frame Sonic Wall TZ215s. And like, there's quite a lot of information here. We also know that this guy wants to run vBulletin on OpenBSD, and he doesn't know how to do it. We could also go on the internet and look for somebody trying to ask how to set up vBulletin on OpenBSD. And we have quite a lot of information about this guy, and that is exactly the mistake that this guy from Silk Road did, because he went and posted stuff on Stack Overflow, for example, related to coding, which was clearly him. And there was so much information out there to be able to figure out who this guy was. It was just a matter of making use of what's called like open source intelligence. So there's people who did a workshop here today about Multigo. You could use that to help you out. And just like harvest all the info out there to just narrow it down to how many people there are that match this profile, and there won't be a lot. And then it will be quite easy to figure out who the person is running the service. So yeah, this guy's also, that I was talking about, is also a Bitcoin user and fanboy, and a vBulletin user and the owner of Sonic Wall. You could go as far as to go on eBay and look in the last few months how many people bought TZ215 Sonic Walls appliances. Don't be stupid. It's an article I found. Some guy was running a Tor written service and they busted him. And he was found with over 100,000 rand dollars in cash at his home. Like, seriously, like, how stupid can you be? he had a passport, so he was not aware whether that was secured. In addition to all of that, the detail, Mr. name I can't pronounce, did admit to everything after receiving his rights, that he was the administrator of Silk Road 2.0, and then he was put on a flight risk list. Like, don't be stupid. Don't have lots of money in your home if you're running a revenue generating tourism service. Just don't do suspicious things in general. Don't do stupid things, and have a plan for when things go wrong. Have a plan for what happens if you get hacked. Have a plan for what happens if a database dump of your users lands on the internet. Have a plan for what happens when you get arrested. You have to have a plan, but you also have to actually practice these plans. Like, have a plan of how you're going to automatically destroy the hardware and actually practice it. If you really want to pull this off. That came from this article. Some quick slides by the graph, just a few, and then my comments on them, and you guys were quite tired after lunch, so then I'll leave you. This is a quote, I think, from The Wire. You only need to fuck up once, be a little slow, be a little late, just once. You ain't gonna never be late. Like, you need to plan for what's gonna go wrong. People think that people like this guy from Silk Road are idiots and they're just running illegal websites that sell guns and drugs, but we can learn a lot of lessons from them, good and bad. Some of these websites actually employ very high amounts of security with very few people, with very little resources, and far better than what we sometimes see in the enterprise. And we can take a lot of notes of how to do things, but also how not to do things from these people. This is a slide from the Grok's one famous slideshow about how to stay out of jail or whatever. And he talks about the Lalse guys or whatever. He says, be careful, be cool, and keep your mouth shut. Be tidy, make sure you always put everything away, and don't be explicit, and don't use code when you're using the phone. And like a lot of times, what he means by that is like, don't use like funny words or things when you talk over the phone. Just don't talk about stupid things on the phone. Like, don't use code. So let's say you're engaging with other operatives in your freedom fighting operation. Let's say you're running some kind of bulletin board where people post messages for each other or whatever. This would be a good article to read. I found it, I don't know how I found it, but it was quite a good article. It basically, somebody posted it, I think some of it is related to like a pedophile ring that was busted in, I think New Zealand or whatever, which I don't approve of. I don't like pedophiles. But they employed very good operational security measures. Some of them were never caught. The one guy was caught and he's still in jail and he will be for the next 25 years. So I hope this stuff makes sense in the order that it's in, because it's very late. Encrypted email, it says, although apparently secure, this method puts the communication parties at great risk of detection. Email servers are centralized and accounts are easily associated with message transmission times and locations. So, encrypting email is generally a good idea or whatever, but as you all know, PGP, to use it right is difficult. To get people not to put your key on your public key on key servers is also difficult, and it can be a very easy way to gather information about people. Like I think I could be wrong, but I think Multigo has a plugin actually to take a PGP key and see everybody associated with that key who have been sent mails and received mails. Like encrypting mails, although it's a good idea, it makes you stand out. Yeah. And some people that are big Tor and ITP fanboys, they want to do all these things and whatever, but you stand out by using these technologies as well. Where if you're just a Windows user using IE and not using Tor and a VPN and all this, you don't stand out. So you have to think about that as well. Encrypting email does not prevent traffic analysis. It merely prevents anyone from trivially discovering the message contents. If it can be located, you can be compelled to decrypt your messages, whether through legal threats or authorities simply beating the passphrase out of you, what they call, this guy named it wrong, it's actually called rubberized cryptanalysis. And now the new cybersecurity bill coming into South Africa, what I don't get is there's nothing about encryption and passphrases and whether you have to give them over or not. And that bothers me because, you know, like, if they are going to make a law in such a way that you have to hand over your passphrases if you are a journalist and you uncovered a new story about what Jacob Zuma is up to, then I'd like to know that they are going to do that. But it's very unclear in the new law. And let's say you were that journalist and you uncovered that story, it would be better to change passwords but also encryption keys regularly and discard the old ones, because if, let's say, they have, how do you call it, if they intercepted emails that you sent to people, but you already destroyed those PGP private keys, it doesn't help if you give them the password. So that's a good practice to regularly swap keys. But you have to remember to also give the new keys that you use over a channel that the other operatives trust. Here's another comic book about rubberized cryptanalysis. You know, different kind of brute force attack. Where they'll use somebody big and frightening to scare the password out of you. I just hope if I ever get in a situation like that, that I'd rather just go quiet out of shock. So the only way, and something funny that we see in the enterprise these days is that people are starting to employ technologies and techniques used by intelligence agencies in the past, like encrypting your hard drive that you take out of the premises. Which is actually a good thing, but it's also sad because it seems like that companies are more becoming the targets of attacks in governments, and the attacks are increasingly actually coming from governments. If you look at who's writing the malware or who's buying it. Yeah, so the only way that this rubberized cryptanalysis can be avoided is to periodically change your encryption subkey. Now, this is going to be quite a weird and annoying situation to be in, where you are in a situation where they ask you for your passphrase, but you don't have the private keys to decrypt the data, even if you wanted it. They are going to beat the crap out of you, but you're not going to have the private keys, even if you want to have them. So you're going to put yourself in a funny position that you might not want to be in at the time, but after that ordeal is over, you will be glad that you destroyed the keys. So, yeah, this is one way that some people use, is like email access exclusively over onion routing. It's a much better approach than just email, but it's still susceptible to traffic analysis. Now, just something I want to point out quick, and I'm going to maybe sound funny saying this, but a lot of the intelligence agencies these days use techniques that have nothing to do with breaking cryptography, because you don't have to break cryptography if there's another way of getting the data. If you look at WhatsApp messages, are, as far as I know, encrypted over SSL, but after the new WhatsApp update, you can now back up your messages conveniently to Google Drive. Why the hell would you want to do that? Like, really, have you guys thought about it? It's just, I mean, in America they can get access, according to the Patriot Act, to anything stored on Google's server. So they don't need to capture the traffic in real time and decrypt it. They don't have to anymore. They just get you to conveniently, without thinking, say, yeah, I want to back up my WhatsApp messages to Google Drive. Very stupid idea. So this person went on to say, while I agree that the distributed nature of Usenet makes traffic analysis non-trivial, I completely disagree with the use of, I can't pronounce it, steganography to protect your traffic. For starters, the authorities are not unaware of the existence, so they are aware of it, the use of double negatives, of steganography as such. It is really suitable only for rendering your message traffic oblivious to the greater public. But the greater public doesn't work for intelligence agencies or law enforcement. Also, by disguising it as spam, it may be filtered out by some news providers. If you're going to secure your messages, the best way to do it is to use strong encryption. And as we see from the Eric Snowden leaks, they can't break all encryption, and they can only break some of it. And most of the time, they use techniques that have nothing to do with breaking encryption to get hold of your data. And the best way to hide strongly encrypted messages is to post them to a news group, for example, in this example, where strongly encrypted messages make up virtually all of the traffic in the group. If you're looking for such a secure high traffic group, you really need to look no further than, and he gives an example, it was designed for this purpose. And there's another project like this on, I think it's called SRND Chan or something. And he gives an example in just a few days, it will be exactly 3.5 years ago, that the FBI and all these people cooperated, and they uncovered a large child porn ring, which I don't approve of. The number of persons reportedly involved varied, and there were apparently 61 involved, blah blah, and there were 22 arrested, 2 in the UK, 4 in Germany, and 2 in Australia, and 14 in the US. And as I said earlier, the alleged leader of the ring used the Nick Yardbird. He made a reappearance at Usenet 2009 and 10, blah blah. And he gave a lot of details on the details that how people use encryption and the kind of OPSEC that they use. And but one person relied on services such as privacy.li and were arrested and convicted. Yardbird further commented that several of the group were privacy.li users, and that one person is currently serving a 25-year sentence in UK, and like from what I've heard, pedophiles don't get treated very well in prison. This one guy became notorious because of his constant promotion for some reason of this privacy.li, and he continually boasted that he could not be caught because they do not keep logs and they were located outside of the US jurisdiction. And then, and that's a very stupid thing to think. America can cooperate with whoever they want, they can do whatever they want, and they do. In an ideal situation, one needs both to be private as well as anonymous. Essentially, this service supplied was a type of VPN service providing an encrypted tunnel for data to travel between 2 endpoints, a customer's computer, while the service provided the other. While there was a degree of privacy, there was no anonymity at all. So it didn't come as a surprise that the customers were also arrested. It is also worthy to note that in 2005, Schneider, whatever you pronounce it, pointed out that more than once. So he pointed out, as I pointed out repeatedly, no service operator is going to go to prison to protect the identity of his customers. Every last one of them will roll over on you if given the opportunity. That's very true. Like, if you're running some kind of tourism service and the authorities come to you and they say, we want all your users' data, you will probably give it to them if they say we're going to kill your family or do something very bad, which happens in countries like Libya, etc. So you have to think of that as well. You have to set everything up in a way that even if you were put in a situation like that, that you wouldn't be able to give them that kind of information. So how was the existence of this group discovered? Simple, through one of the oldest investigative techniques, the informer. So So the Australian police arrested a man to something totally unrelated to child pornography, and as part of the plea deal, out of nowhere, he just came out and said, yeah, he's involved with this child porn ring, and he'll help them out, and yeah, they helped. I don't know what it is that he was doing. Anyway, so they got from him his PPP, private and public keeper, and his passphrase, and the police could use this to assume his identity and read all of the encrypted traffic posted by members of the group. So even if they change their keys periodically, they're in the ring now. And something we often see in these kind of situations is that the more people get to know each other, the more comfortable they become with each other and start giving details about their life that could de-anonymize them more and more, which is very stupid. So be careful who you talk to. No one is going to go to jail for you. Lolsek. You know, Sabu turned on all these guys. And I don't blame him, he's got 3 children. But they didn't think he would. So just to finish off, yeah, poor compartmentation. You have to split things up. You can't have everything all together. I don't know a good way to explain it, but information about you shouldn't all be in one place, shouldn't all be at Google. They could profile it, like I showed earlier with the example with a forum post. Geographic location, he used to log in at certain times to certain servers. Isolation, he didn't have friends. Yeah, that's my email address. And I don't want to spam, so I wrote it out like that. And I'm not on Twitter, and I don't offer any services related to Tor region services, even if you offer me lots of money. Okay, thank you guys. And I'm doing a workshop about web app hacking after this. I don't know if there's space left, but if you're very interested in coming, you can come and have a look if there's maybe some space and come attend it. Thanks. Any questions?
No, you smeared SE Linux, so I have to clear one thing there. You say what the funding of the NSA. First of all, I don't agree with that argument. The NSA initially were involved in Tor. Tor is being funded by DARPA, funded by U.S. Navy. We received huge amounts of money from the government. And the first thing I would want to know is like, if I was them, what would I want to do? I'd want to make all my irritating traffic in one place, so I know where to look. And to think that there's maybe not, that's my theory.
It's a good argument. Yeah, I'm not saying Tor is a silver bullet. I'm not saying it's perfect or it's not hackable or whatever. There's definitely big incentive for people also to find issues in Tor and sell it to the FBI first before.
SE Linux is amazing, by the way. It's really, it's no problem with it.
I don't agree with you about SE Linux though, because just over and over I've just seen bad things. Like even some of the SE Linux developers who work at the NSA are starting to think that some of the design concepts that they employ are not a good idea.
It's about though. It's not about what you think it is, right? But it's a debate afterwards. I mean, what it's about securing American business against the new Cold War, which is China versus America. You know, pretty much that kind of scenario where there's IP theft. It's about making a country stable. It's not about trying to, and that's the argument. But I mean, at the end of the day, all it is bringing extended commission sets to Linux.
Okay, I don't think it's inherently bad, but I mean, the thing is just that if you look at some of the core Linux developers, they'd rather recommend you to use that than GR security, and people will say, oh, these guys from GR security are so paranoid, they think of all these weird situations, but it's usually not, they get proven right in the end, that there should be more focus on security. In my opinion, there's too much. Like I'm not saying, yo, there's a backdoor in SE Linux, I'm not saying that, but I just think it's too hard to use, and it's, GR security is very often, yeah, that's just my opinion. Yeah. I think I would rather use OpenBSD than Linux, to be honest, yeah. But yeah, like I said earlier, like if you're going to use it for a Tor region service, for example, I need so many people that use it. Some people sometimes joke and say there are 2 users of OpenBSD in the world. So if you use it, you're one of them. But But they certainly know what they're doing. They also write the code for Libra SSL and OpenSSH and whatever, so I think they know what they're talking about, those guys. Yeah. Any other questions?
Maybe more of a suggestion. Also, I mean, if there's a way of, how do I put this? Maybe just throw noise into the pipelines as well. You know,
Yeah.
Try and, like with even OTR, and I mean, you can use OTR over Google Hangouts, but sometimes there's some weird behavior. So you just throw some, messaging down the line, keep it random.
I have a service for that. You can, it's just an open proxy, and then you can, if you want, you can run some of the traffic through. Because they use UA sniffing as the one number one. It's just for non-biasing or stuff.
Yeah, there are lots of bad things going on the Tor network as well. I'm aware of that, like especially on exit nodes. But yeah, what you said is quite true. I think there's certainly a need in terms of the software world for people to also develop tools to detection, to create some way of detecting surveillance on your network traffic, and there isn't really something like that at the moment. There's also not really something for detecting what do you call it, manipulation of, I don't know if you guys saw that thing about, what's it called, soft puppetry for fun and profit. Like there's also not stuff to detect, for the public to detect the intelligence agencies' involvement in overloading a certain type of information to take people's attention away of something else happening. I mean, if you look at what happened in France, everybody was going on crazy on Facebook. 120 people that died, where like I think more than 1,500 people died in Palestine last year, but nobody seems to care about that. 120 people are a small amount of people to kill for a few barrels of oil, but that's just my opinion. Yeah.
So the first thing is, in just the most recent point, so I did some work on that software things,
What is that?
Sorry?
You did some work on?
On the software thing that you just
Yeah.
so just to be clear, we didn't actually make any link or any attribution with anyone whatsoever.
Yeah.
We just pointed out that it is possible.
Yeah.
Attribution is a very difficult thing to make, and
Yeah, but that's kind of what I said. There's no tools out there to make that attribution, but there's also no tools to detect that kind of thing happening, and I think there's a big need for that. Yeah.
So, but I have a question though. So there are several media organizations that do run core human services, but they seem to run for perhaps a slightly different purpose than what you implied. So they run for perhaps anonymous sources wishing to remain anonymous and contribute information, but they themselves don't wish to remain anonymous. In fact, they probably want to distribute that information as widely as possible that they run a hidden service to make it as easy as possible for people to find out and listen to them. What part of your, do any of your recommendations fall away in that case?
No.
You can have a slightly different net model and also feed and fight yourself in the future.
Okay, so that's a very good question. Maybe I didn't make it clear, but part of why I made these suggestions is if you're one of these media organizations running something like that, you don't want somebody to be able to pinpoint where it is, for example, and shut it down. So you could say, oh, we're running it, but we don't know who's running it or who's involved with it. And maybe if you compartment, I can't pronounce the word, the information probably only certain people will know who and where it's running. And if the whole point of also having this kind of OPSEC is to ensure the availability of the service. So if it can't be found, it can't be shut down almost. Does it make sense?
So I suspect though that some of them do want their service to be known about.
No, but not knowing where it is. Like, so let's say I'm mailing Guardian and I want to set up like what's that thing that on Schwartz's privacy box or whatever it's called, that secure drop mechanism. Like I would want people to know I'm running it, but I wouldn't want them to know where it's located, if it's located in South Africa, if it's located overseas, and who's running it. Yeah, I hope that answers your
Probably
question.
want to reverse proxy it or something like that.
Yeah, well, have somebody who has no procedure they should follow if they found out that you were innocent and they took the drugs without a warrant from you, is they actually have to destroy the hard drives. That is kind of weird. That could totally play in the NC's favor if you're a journalist with information that they don't want to get out. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They just have to pay a 300,000 rand fine.
But it's a problem for the virtualization situation. Confiscated servers and have multiple virtual machines.
Copies, yeah.
And the majority of the virtual machines were perfectly legitimate. It just happened to be illegitimate ones, and the FBI were like, well, so what?
Yeah. Yeah, and then they shut the others down as well. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Depends on the interpretation of that speech.
So the weird difference between South Africa and America is that America's constitution allows hate speech in a way. I could be wrong, but you are allowed to have things like the KKK and stuff exist. In South Africa we have the RVB or whatever. But constitutionally they're allowed to open their mouth and say like hateful things or whatever, where in South Africa the constitution doesn't really allow it. But yeah, the thing is just who regulates what is hate speech. And in South Africa, like we're seeing a lot, there's a the ANC just wants to say that everybody is a spy that they don't like. So the public prosecutor is a spy. It's that kind of mentality that Julius Malema has, you bloody agent. Even Helen Zille just got said, so I don't know the whole story, but from what I could see, is they were running a counterintelligence operation, and that is now seen as espionage, and to figure out who is bugging your phones, that is ridiculous. So there's really might be a need at some point for people to run news websites and stuff on .alien addresses. Yeah. Cool. Thank you guys.